Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. And if you thought last week's episode was epic with 42 CDs, well, this one here is mega with 50 CDs. So, not anything I planned on. It was just I don't know, the way the ball rolled or whatever in terms of where I went and what I hit and what I found. And I made some killer scores. So 50 CDs we're going to run through here in just a bit, and we'll get into it in just a moment. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, if you turn on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool episodes like this mega edition with 50 CDs for this week's New Music Finds. So let's go ahead and dive into it. And as always, I like to kick off with new releases. And while I haven't really had many in the last few weeks to do, they dwindled down. There's always been one here or there, and I got one more. This one here, Sweet, Isolation Boulevard. And this one here was actually recorded in 2020 during lockdown. So it's re-recordings of their hits with the same lineup that did the 2024 album Full Circle that came out earlier this year. But they're finally releasing a physical edition of it. So it's been streaming for the last 4 years since 2020. But now you can buy a copy of it. And it sounds great. I was pleasantly surprised with this and how good it was and how great they can still replicate those harmonies, making it a fun album to listen to. All right, but let's go ahead and dive into this mega haul here. So one of the things that I mentioned during my thank you video that I've sort of alerted you to that is an upcoming thing down the road is that I'm contributing to a book that's being written on the albums of Night Ranger the same way I did for the band Kansas. And one of the albums that I was contributing to was Dawn Patrol. And while I had a copy of this, I had one of those MCA ones, and the sound just not very good on it as a whole. And so I decided to take a chance with this Rock Candy Records reissue that's remastered and just prayed that it would have stellar sound. And it really does. It sounds so much better than that copy, that old school copy that I have. So in this particular case, I was very glad to shell out again, essentially for the same album again, but it sounded so much better and was totally worth it. And I was just, on a whole Night Ranger kick while I was writing for 4 of the albums, and this being one of them. And I had been listening to it over and over in terms of being able to do what I needed to. And I thought, I just got to get a better copy of it. And that's where this one came in. All right, last week I showed you guys a best of from this band, Fair Warning, and I found an album of theirs that I was able to get off of Amazon. Their stuff is proving to be a little bit harder to find than I thought it would have been, but I got this one here, which is called Sun Dancer. It's a later day era album from 2013, but really good AOR melodic rock style music. Highly recommend this band, if you're not familiar with them, to check them out. Bonfire. So again, I picked up some Bonfire related stuff, looking for some more. I'm waiting for their brand new album that's due out, I think, at the end of January. This came out just this past year. It's re-recordings. Actually, it might be 2023. It is 2023, not 2024, so a year ago. It's re-recordings. They re-recorded the first 3 albums. Well, my favorite album is this one, the second one, Fireworks. So I decided to get this one in here with the new singer sounded like, and it's just kind of a tide me over. It definitely doesn't replace the original. The original is just phenomenal. I'm never going to replace that guy, but this one here, still a fun listen. I prefer the re-recordings to live albums. I know a lot of you would just say, give me a live album by the new singer, but I liked that. Again, building on a lot of stuff that I picked up recently with the holiday, having just had Thanksgiving and then having Christmas, and I hit a lot of record stores. I got into all these different bands that I had not been into, one of them being this band, the Finnish metal band Oz. And this one here is the first of the reunion era albums that they did. I think they've done 3 now, and I have all 3. But this was the first one where half of it's new material and half of it is re-recordings of their classic stuff. It's still got the original singer on this one. As the 2 albums move forward, they got a different singer. And I actually still think I like those 2 newer albums with the newer lineup than I like of the original stuff. But I got to get some of the earlier material to hear it the original way to really know. But I had that. That was good. I decided to pick this up because of the drummer, Camelot, a best of Where I Reign. And this is the noise years from when the band was on the label from 95 to 2003. And while I don't think this drummer was on during that whole period, I think he came in on the 3rd album, just like their most famous singer. But Casey Grillo, who joined Queensryche, I knew of, heard of the band Camelot through that. So they've always kind of been in the back of my mind, but I've never checked anything out from them. And finding this single disc compilation album that is out of print, I decided to grab this and give it a go. It's definitely in the whole power metal vein, but it's got all the swords and sorcery style stuff. The if you're into the wizards and all of that sort of stuff, Hogwarts and whatnot, Camelot is your band. Incidentally, they're from Tampa, Florida, but they got signed and put out their first album in 95, and I was not into the local scene by that point. I was into it much earlier, late 80s, early 90s part. So I never knew that these guys were from Tampa until I looked into them here. Staying on some power metal stuff, picked up some Iron Savior. Really good place for me to start with them. I did a little sound sampling before I checked that one out. Hammerfall Masterpieces. This is a covers album. And I already had some Hammerfall in the collection, 3 albums of theirs, in fact. So I wanted to check this out. I thought this was pretty cool. 18 songs, and it's got cool stuff covering Rainbow, Kiss, the Japanese band Loudness. It's got Halloween, but it's got a lot of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily expect either, or bands I've never heard of, all done in the Hammerfall style. So this was a cool one. Here's one I didn't think I would pick up, and I wasn't even entirely sure what this was, but when I looked into it more, it really piqued my interest. Death Angel, the Bastard Tracks. And I didn't really understand what that was. And when this first came out in 2023, I think it was. Oh, no, 2021. Sorry, I thought it was 2023, but 2021. And I saw that it said it was live. And I thought, well, I'm not interested in a live album. And I just bypassed it. But come to find out, it was recorded during the pandemic, live in the studio, so no audience. And even that part makes it better than it is. But what I really liked about it and why the title of it is so fitting is they did a lot of deep cuts. They really shied away from the big stuff, the hits, and instead they did rarely, if ever, played live songs. And so to get those and hear an album worth of that is very, very satisfying to me. So when I decided to just randomly throw it on and give it a listen while I was walking through the store, it turned out to be really, really good. It's also, the vocals aren't as heavy as they typically are on the albums, and I appreciated that too. Gave it a little bit of a different flavor. But all in all, it was one of those times where I bypassed an album for a few years, didn't think much of it, found out a little bit more about it, and it turned out to be probably my favorite thing that I bought that day. Cirith Ungol, their latest album, this one I believe is 2024 this year, Dark Parade, really good. I love the sound of the music. It's got that new wave of British heavy metal flavor to it. It's in more of the hard rock than metal musically sounding. And it was just one of those things that came on and I was like, oh, let me see what this is. Let me pop it on in passing. Again, I've got 2 or 3 of their early albums, but I had not stayed up with the band. And then this turned out to be really good. So I'm going to track down more of that. I bypassed this one because it is a live album, and this one here is Symphonic Terror. And I probably did look into it at the time, but I can't really remember. It's 2017. And if you look at the cover and you read the name, it makes a lot of sense when you realize the band is playing with an orchestra. And I like when metal bands play with orchestras. So as soon as I realized that this go around when I was in the store, I immediately grabbed it. And of course, gave it a listen and did very much enjoy it. And it's kind of interesting because it kicks off with Accept just playing 5 songs by themselves. You get that. Then they have what's called Headbanger Symphony, which is actually Wolf Hoffman doing his solo album with his solo band. And so you get 5 songs that way on here, actually 6 songs. The second disc is Accept with the symphony orchestra, 10 songs that way. And of course, they play the big hits, including Balls to the Wall and other great ones on here. Metal Heart is another one that I really like. And of course, a lot of the new stuff too on here. But it sounds really, really good for being a live album and for them incorporating the orchestra with it. All right, staying on a lot of the power metal for me this past couple weeks. I picked up 2 Gamma Ray releases. These are reissues and 25th anniversary type things. Debut album, Heading for Tomorrow, and then this one here, which is Insanity and Genius. But they're double discs, so the second disc that are in here has bonus tracks, demos. I don't know if it has live or not. I haven't really dug into those just yet. But it's got different single mixes and demos, and does have live I see on here. I was really diving into the remastered editions, listening to those because I had the first 4 albums on these twofer reissues that they had done a number of years back. But of course, I love it when it's the standalone. This had unique art, plus adding in that bonus disc in there gives me something more to sink my teeth into. And then here's an album that I bypassed originally because the singer was out of the group, and I was originally only really interested in the singer, Spirits of Fire. And so this was a super group that had Ripper Owens singing, of course, ex-Judas Priest. But they had Chris Caffery on guitar from Sabotage. And that also intrigued me, but I remember when I got the album, it didn't do a whole lot for me. And I pulled it out recently because there's been so much talk about Sabotage in the media, and they're going to go out on tour, they're working on a new album, just all that sort of stuff. And so I wanted to pull out some of the side projects and things that were going on, and I pulled this out. And I ended up really enjoying it for the very first time, and I thought, let me check out the follow-up album. And this one here called Embrace the Unknown, and it's got a different singer. I don't recall his name, not anyone that I was aware of, not a big name singer like Ripper Owens at least. But I was more interested in it this go around for Chris Caffery's guitar playing and for it to sound like Sabotage style music of the style that, of course, Caffery has played on. And that's what this is. So it ended up hitting the sweet spot for me where I thought I would never pick this up because it didn't have Ripper Owens. I just had to look at it a different way. And I love it when that happens and I can get into something that, for whatever reason in the past, didn't click with me. I picked up an Yngwie Malmsteen album, Inspirations. This one here being 10 tracks of cover songs. It's got Deep Purple and Kansas, and it's actually got a bunch of Deep Purple. Demon's Eye is on here. Pictures of Home. Mistreated. Child in Time, Demon's Eye, Mistreated, Pictures of Home. Wow. But he does write a special thing saying that Ritchie Blackmore was a huge, huge influence on him. So I'm quite sure that's why we get so much of it. I think this was the last Udo album I didn't have, and I don't know why. I just had not come across it, but I came across it in this limited edition ebook, Udo Thunderball. Just great, straight up Udo. Can't go wrong with it. I love his stuff through and through, which is why I'm surprised that I didn't have it. It is a 2-disc special edition, but the second CD is a multimedia CD. So see, if you wait too long on something, sometimes the stuff that comes bonus with it is no longer relevant. We can't even play it anymore. Computers don't come with CD players. Not that I would want any of the stuff that's on it, but I do find that a little hilarious. And then this one here, replacing a slimline jewel case promo copy that I had. This recently got reissued in 2021. Blaze, Blood and Belief. So Blaze Bayley, former Iron Maiden singer, second solo album. I think it was the second, maybe it was the third. I think it was actually the third. At third and final of the Blaze moniker, and then it just became everything is under Blaze Bayley. But it was a band for 3 albums: Ghost in the Machine, the I don't know if it's called 10 Seconds, can't remember now, but whatever the second one was, and then this one here. But I love this one. This one has always been one of my absolute favorite Blaze Bayley albums. I think this one here, the 10 tracks on this from start to finish are just so good. And I've never come across a physical copy of it. And I finally decided when I saw this one that I had to pick it up, even though it was brand new and it was a reissue from 2021. But I really was glad to get that and enjoy it. All right. Now, weeks back, I was into more of the alternative rock, jangle pop, stuff like that, and still finding stuff like that. So I did pick up a couple more things to add into the collection, although I'm not really listening to it right now, but it'll be there for me when I want it later. I picked up the other 2 Golden Smog albums. I think this is the debut, that's the second, and I had the third. I showed you guys that one, and it was such a pleasant surprise how great that one turned out to be, that when I came across these 2, and these are both Ryko disc, and this one even still in the green case, I decided I had to get them and add them to the collection. If you're not familiar with the band itself, the reason that I was pulled into it was the guitar player from Soul Asylum is part of the group, but it's also got members from Wilco, the Jayhawks, the Replacements. Different guys have been part of it at different times. So you get these different people, but one of the ones that has been consistent all the way through is the guitar player from Soul Asylum. And for me, this stuff has a lot of that feel to it. So I've been enjoying it for that reason. All right. Now, the mega haul stuff that I got when I went out to Jack's Music Shop in Red Bank, New Jersey. If you didn't already see, I did a Let's Go to the Record Store. I briefly covered these. I'm going to go through these again in a little bit more detail, but we're going to kick off with the Skid Row Revolutions Per Minute album that was a replacement to, again, a slimline case promo copy that I had. So finding this for, I think, $2.99, and then everything was discounted like another $1 as well. So $2 for it. Very cool. So I have since taken these 30 here and alphabetized them. And this was a box they sent me home with because, helped me carry it. And when I was walking around, I was having such a hard time carrying a stack of these things. I went up and I asked if they had a basket, and they didn't, but they said, here, how about a box? And I was like, perfect. But they let me take it home, and it's just made it a great way for me to move this thing around. So this one turned out to be a big surprise. If you did watch the video, then you know that I said I wasn't really into the vocals on this. Axis' second album, 2, from 1990. The vocals have totally grown on me, and I am really enjoying this. Since picking this up, I listened to it 2 times straight through. The night before, woke up in the morning, listened to it 2 times again in the morning before filming this. Really good. It's definitely in the Halloween vein. But what I found the big difference is, at least with them at this time, they don't do as much of the double bass kick drum stuff. Still sounds very much like power metal, but more on the hard rock side because you don't have the heavy drumming with it. And that's at least the distinction in it right now that I hear. But like I said, the vocals in this totally grew on me. So I've since ordered 2 more albums by them. And as I come across more, I'm going to be picking it up. Because it's made a big impression on me. I think that has been my favorite of the things that hit me after getting it. There's a few other things that were major scores, but that one was just one that I took a chance on and turned out to be great. I haven't opened everything just yet. Bitch, It Rose by Any Other Name. This one here I'll get to eventually, but looking forward to checking that one out. Some killer female-fronted heavy metal, some more female-fronted heavy metal with Dora, Raise Your Fist. And this one here I bought as a jewel case replacement to one of those ebooks that's oversized. This turned out to be so much better for whatever reason. Again, maybe my mindset was just in the right place at the right time, but I've actually really enjoyed this and listened to it multiple times, loving this. So that's why some of these haven't been open, because some of the ones that I started listening to, I enjoyed so much, I did multiple listens to, sort of negating me being able to get into everything. But then when you come home with 33 CDs, which I did from them, it's going to take you a while to go to it. And I don't like to open my stuff until I'm ready to give it a listen. So that's why a few of these you're going to see still are in the plastic. Like this next one, Throb England. And I don't remember which band he comes from. Somebody out there can post it in the comments so that you guys will know. But I have one of the other solo albums that this guy did, but it was a tribute to Judas Priest. And I loved the way that it sounded, but I didn't really know what this guy sounded like on his own. So that's why I picked this up. And as I said, it's still sealed. So I don't know what the guy sounds like on his own, what it is that he does when he writes. But that's why I bought it. I want to try it out. Here's one that also clicked with me, and I plan on getting some more as I find it. I'm not going to specifically run out and order stuff right away because I've got so much to listen to. That Access stuff, I can't wait. I have to order it and get some right away. But this stuff, Eclipse and Monument, just turned out to be a great AOR melodic rock. It's a little heavier than that, so it was interesting because it was a little heavier than I actually expected it to be, but very, very good stuff. Frontman, vocalist, guitar player Eric Martinson. I've always known from doing things like with Avantasia and tributes albums and guesting on other albums, but I've never really listened to his own stuff, and that was a good album. Ed Guy, speaking of albums where guest singers come in, Avantasia, Tobias Sammet, frontman right there, the big guy in the front of the thing on the right, that's him there. This is his day job, Ed Guy, although I would say it seems like Avantasia is now his day job because we've been getting more albums from that band than we do from Ed Guy. In fact, it's been some time since we've gotten anything from them. Edge of Forever, a group that I have one album from, and I know, I forget who the main guy is, but Alessandro Del Vecchio, again, part of it, and I think this was one of his bands or projects, not just what he does now, which he just seems to be join everybody's band, but this one here, Seminole, and like I said, I had one of these albums from a few years back and really enjoyed it. Didn't stay up with the band, but when you see an album for $2.99 and you know you've got one at home that you really like, chances are you're going to like that. So I just added some of these things for that reason. Fans of the Dark, a newer AOR melodic band that has a lot of 80s synth keyboards in it. I have their second album. Really enjoyed it. It was a surprise find from 2024. So I'm looking forward to listening to their first album and seeing if it's as good as the one that came out this past year. But I really fell in love with that as a newer band and hope that they continue to do a lot more. Didn't hear anything about them. I only stumbled across them and liked the album cover, and it led me to digging into them and telling you guys about it. But if I hadn't seen that album cover, I don't know what would have happened. I certainly wouldn't have picked this one up based on that. I probably would have bypassed it. But the album cover from the 2024, if you look it up, you'll know what I'm talking about because it looks like something straight out of the 80s synth world. Fair warning, Aura. Showed you the one earlier that I had, and I was lucky enough to find this one here for $3.49. And again, I think it knocked $1 off or 50 cents off or something. So all these were even cheaper in the end of the day. But luckily, I was able to find one online from Amazon and then one at this store. So I now have two full-length Fair Warning albums plus that best of. I want the debut though. Heat, Freedom Rock, the original release of it, because I do have a remixed and remastered version of it that's in a digipack. I hate digipacks, so I was so glad to see that this one here was in the jewel, but it should sound different, and I'm looking forward to making the comparison between them. And again, at the cheaper price like that, I don't mind having two copies of it, even more so because one's a remix and one is not, but having that and getting that, very cool. And again, the power metal thing, I had picked up and showed you guys the Iron Savior that I picked up at the beginning of the show. So I also found at Jack's 3 more. I actually found a bunch more, but I basically had to narrow some of it down. So I don't know what all of it is. And I didn't want to just buy to be buying, but I ended up buying 3 because I did enjoy that one so much. So I'm adding this one and Dark Assault, which I think is a covers album, because 3 or 4 of the songs right off the bat I know are cover songs, but I don't know the other ones. So I don't know if they're just bands or songs that I don't know, or if they just happen to put, 3 or 4 covers on an album. But Never Say Die, Black Sabbath, they've got Delivering the Goods, Judas Priest. There's some other stuff that's on here. Again, maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe these are all songs that sound like they're going to be cover songs that are not. I don't know. I'm going to find out, though, when I open it up. So I am looking forward to that. Unification from 1990. So I'm looking forward to checking out some of the earlier stuff from the band. Master Plan, MK2. It's actually their 3rd album. First without Jorn Landy, who's such an amazing singer. I just absolutely love the project, or he does it under the band name of Jorn, but they're just solo albums. But I love those albums that he does, so I'm a big fan of his. But anyway, there are 5 total albums from Master Plan. This one was the 3rd. They then did a reunion album with Jorn, and then one with another new singer after that. Now I have them all. Primal Fear with Ralph Sheepers and Matt Sinner doing the whole Judas Priest thing. As most of you guys probably know, Ralph Sheepers tried out for Judas Priest, but Ripper Owens got it. So in turn, he left Gamma Ray and formed Primal Fear, and that's how that all happened. I also found a best of Primal Fear, which is turning out to be very, very cool. 16 tracks covering 6 of their albums, where I can really get in and, study the band a bit more before going out and figuring out what albums I want to buy. Picked up some Axel Rudi Pell. I'm always talking to you guys about this German guitar player. One of the reasons that I like them so much is for the singer Johnny Gioli, coming from the band Hardline. So out of my glam metal world into the power metal world of Axel Rudi Pell. And he comes from the German band Steeler. But I know him more from this, and I gave this band a try because of Johnny Gioli and found out how much I like the music and wish that Axel Rudi Pell, the guitar player, had more attention given to him the same way that Yngwie Malmsteen and some of these other guys get. He should get it too. Okay, Reese, the project from David Reese, former Accept vocalist and Bangalore Choir vocalist, doing his own thing. This turned out to be great, straight ahead, hard rock music, a little heavier than the Bangalore Choir type stuff, but not as heavy as Accept, so kind of bridging somewhere right in the middle of that. This was a good find. I don't know why I didn't pick it up at the time. Might just have run under the radar for me. Michael Schenker, a BBC collection. I haven't yet opened this one because I know all the songs. There's just going to be a cool thing to add into the collection, but I will give it a good listen shortly when I'm in the mood for that. Thunder, an acoustic album, a live acoustic album. Actually, it says they think it's all acoustic, so maybe there's some electric. I don't know. Whatever it is, though, I'm looking forward to checking it out and getting it. Standalone live release that I think that was part of a package at one point, but this was recorded in 2000. Treat, band that I've got a couple releases from and didn't recognize this one, so I'm looking forward to that. And I like a lot of these bands where they're not bands that I necessarily need to go get the whole catalogs, but when I get it, they're good stuff. And so I just kind of wait. If I stumble across something and it's a good price, I know to grab it. But I don't necessarily need to run right out and buy every album from a band when I discover them. Certain ones I do. Axis might be one of those bands, I don't know. I love that first album so much. If more of the albums sound like that, I'm going to be buying a lot more. But also, a lot of times I will just be buying stuff as I'm finding it, and then my musical tastes change and move on to something else, and I don't finish buying the whole catalogs, and it gives me something to come back to later. So that's sort of how this happens with me. Torch. This was a reunion album that the band did, and I don't have the debut album from the group, or that's originally from the 80s, but this sounds like it's right out of the 80s. This was another one that was very, very good, and I did turn around and go ahead and buy another newer album from these guys. I just really enjoyed the sound of this so much, sort of like Oz, where it was interesting that the newer stuff I think sounded better than the original stuff. Tigers of Pantang is one of those bands that I love the newer version of the band better than I like the original version of the band. This one is one of those, so I'm really enjoying that. Udo, a CD single for Infected, but it's got 4 other songs unreleased on here that made it worthwhile having a 5-song EP. All right, and the last of the metal things, Virgin Steel picking up this album here. It's actually a 2-disc set. You get a bonus CD with it that's got some other tracks. It's got 3 more songs on it, but the third track on here is 32 minutes and 42 seconds long. So if you add it in, it's another 45-minute album. It's a double album, if you will. Very cool to get that. And then I've got 6 rock things here. I have to keep them separate. So see, I alphabetized all the metal and then I alphabetized the rock. And again, if you watch the Jax video, then you know this was the mega score of the day. It was the Head East album, Choice of Weapons. It's 1988, the last album of original material, last studio album of original material that the band has recorded to date. Going on, it's either been live or re-recordings. So to get this on the original record label, Dark Heart Records, so it's not even a reissue of it, it's the original one. That was a very cool find. Raise a Little Hell was the first album after that, but it is all re-recorded songs. Still, I wanted it. It's been one I haven't been able to find, so that was cool. Found a Frank Marino album without Mahogany Rush, a true solo album from him called Full Circle. This is a budget price reissue by the SPV label. I really hate it when they do this where they list other artists. It's all because it's the budget, and then you open it up and the booklet inside is nothing but promotion of other artists, like a music catalog. So there's no information on the inside of this whatsoever, even though it looked like it was a 4-page booklet when I was buying it. A little bummed about the overall quality of the packaging to it. May replace it at a later date if I can find a better one. But at least for now, I got the last Frank Marino album that I didn't have. This Gary Moore album turned out to be a really good live album. Of live albums that I do like and enjoy, it's usually these bigger ones from arenas, and whether or not it's because they oftentimes piped in the crowd noise to make them sound bigger than they were, and they touched up stuff in the studio, I don't know, but I do like those kind of live albums, and this is a good one. 38 Special Tour de Force, an album I didn't have, was glad to find it, still on the A&M label, so not a reissue on some sub-label. Turned out to be a very good album, and I haven't opened this one yet. I'm gonna open it, but the Billy Squier album, this is Signs of Life, kind of a crazy, definitely 80s album cover there, reissued by Universal Japan, who's been doing a great job getting some of these albums back into our hands. But there you go, 50 CD mega haul that I did from this past week. Of course, if it wasn't for Jackson picking up 31 that I showed you, but remember I got 2 of them for the car that I'm not talking about here, the Lynch Mob debut album, Wicked Sensation, and of course Poison's Native Tongue, 2 for my car, but I didn't even count those. But this here, these 50 CDs, that's what I got. But like I said, it was such a good deal at the $2.99 and under prices that I was getting on 31 of these things that it was a no-brainer to pick that stuff up. Plus, it's an hour drive away, and if I'm gonna go down there, I'm not going back the next day, so I kind of have to make the decision right then if I want it or not, or I might be kicking myself later. And the fact that I only picked up one of the Access, and there was a ton of these there, I am kicking myself, and I am seriously considering going back in a week and hoping that a bunch of those are still there. So you might see some more of that in my collection if I decide to make the drive again. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.